Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today Cryptic has just put out the third teaser trailer for the upcoming 14th anniversary bundle, which is inspired by Wolf 359. As always, chapters are listed down below. And heading over to the teaser, they say that this is revealing all of the ships in the 14th anniversary bundle, and that they'll be going over the stats and bundle exclusives later this week. So let's take a look now at the teaser. Here is the TNG era skins for these ships. So at the left is the Challenger, then the Cheyenne, the Springfield, which is the new one for this specific teaser. Above that is the Niagara, and then over at the right, this is the skin remasters for the Constellation and New Orleans. So I want to be clear here that only the ships at the left are new ships. These two at the right are just skin remasters that are going to be bundle exclusives. And here's the modernized skins for these ships. And here is the reveal for the premium ship that is going to be a bundle exclusive. So this is the Lockbox Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer. And the reason I think they've went with this is because it's a Borgified ship. The other Borg ships are either too new or are already in other bundles, so they weren't really a good option here. The Liberated Borg Juggernaut was put into a MUDs bundle last year, and the Assimilator, that's only been out for 2 months. So being a lockbox ship that's only been out for 2 months, that's way too new to be in a bundle like this. So they decided to go with the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer because that's a Borgified Romulan ship. So I don't think that was the best option, and I'll go over that in a few minutes. But that is it for this specific teaser here. And the thing is, there's clearly room for another ship. Like, they're saying here that this is all of the ships in the bundle, but this isn't a symmetrical picture. There's clearly room for another ship right over here, and I think the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer is fairly underwhelming. Again, like I'll show you here shortly. So I do expect that we're going to see another ship put into this bundle here in the next couple of days. And I want to recap now what here is going to be bundle exclusive and what you're going to be able to purchase individually in the C-Store. So for the bundle exclusives, the remastered skins for the Constellation and New Orleans over here at the right, per the second teaser, those are going to be bundle exclusives. The account-wide unlock for the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer, that is going to also be a bundle exclusive here. And if they put in a second premium ship, that would also be a bundle exclusive. And there will be some other exclusives that they'll probably announce on Wednesday. Now, if you don't want to buy the bundle, you can go in and pick up the 4 new C-Store ships individually on their own if you want, with Zen or with the T6 coupon. So that's the Challenger, the Cheyenne, the Niagara, and the Springfield. So if you don't care about the full bundle, if there's only one ship that stands out to you, this should work just like the 12th or 13th, where you can go in and just pick up the 1 or 2 ships that you care about. And I do want to remind you, though, that if your intention long-term is to pick this bundle up, STO does not provide a discount for most bundles when you've purchased a part of those bundles. So if your intention long-term is to go in and pick up this entire 14th bundle, then you're not going to get a discount if you go in and pick up just one of the ships right now. So if that's what you're planning to do, then I would just hold off until you can go in and buy the entire thing. And here we have the Springfield or USS Chekhov from the Wolf 359 TFO. So I think this is probably going to be the science ship in the bundle. And the reason I say that is because the deflector on it is quite visible, whereas most of the other ships in the bundle so far didn't really have a visible deflector. So to me, this just seems more likely to be a science ship than the other 3 in the bundle that they've shown. So here it is front on. Here it is from above. Let me show you it from the side now. Got it from behind. Let's look at it from below. And let's look at it from above again. So I like the square nacelles that this thing has personally. And this bit here, I can't quite tell if it's, going to be detachable, but this really does look like it could potentially be something that is detachable. So the reason I say that is if you look up here, this looks like a latch similar to what we saw over on the Melbourne when I looked at that the other day. So I almost wonder if this is like a detachable craft on this, or what exactly the point of this is. Because again, this reminds me of what we saw on the Melbourne with that craft that is like docked at the top of it. So it's got that similar type latch type thing there. Again, this is probably going to be the signed ship in the bundle. And if you want to take a closer look at it, again, it's at the Wolf 359 Memorial map. You can see the damaged version of this model. And next up, I want to take a look at the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer, which you're going to be able to get as an account-wide unlock upon purchasing the 14th Anniversary Bundle. So we'll start off with the visuals here and then do a quick rundown on the stats. So there's 2 skin options for the ship, the LAR class here, and then the Mandacar. Now, this is a lockbox ship. The T5 version here launched back in 2013, and the T6 remaster it got, which is a much more interesting design visually, that launched back in 2017. Now, these ships incorporate quite a bit of Borg aesthetics into the design, which you can see somewhat on the exterior here, and you can definitely see that on the unique bridge that it has. And you'll also notice that these ships are really spiky. The Tal Shiar adapted ships also draw inspiration from the Romulan ship shown in the 2009 Star Trek movie. And heading over to the bridge, I do want to remind you guys that there was recently a change made to the game that allows you to use any bridge on any ship. So if you have this ship from the 14th bundle, that means you're going to have the bridge unlocked to use on whatever ship that you want. You might have to have this ship in your roster or dry dock for that to work, but at least you'll have this as an option. So you can see that there's a lot of Borg inspiration with the design here. So it's a nice combo of Romulan and Borg tech in here. So if you're really into this aesthetic and you again want to just have like a really nice Borgified bridge, then this is something that may be of interest to you. There's no special features about the bridge with the mechanics. It has access to all the basic things you would expect on any bridge, but there's none of the premium stuff like an exchange, bank, mail, and so on. So it's a nice looking bridge visually, but it's just the 2 rooms. So there's just 2 rooms. There's no other levels here, so pretty small, but it's got a lot of nice detail in the small area that it has. And heading over to the stats side of things, you can see that the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer is a bit dated by modern standards. Now, one unique thing about the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer that no other tactical ship in the game currently has is the sensor analysis. So sensor analysis is usually locked to just science vessels. However, both the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer and Battlecruiser do have access to sensor analysis as a unique perk. So if that's something you want to go in and utilize, that is there for you, and you can get a bit of a damage buff from it. And while I'm here, I do also want to note that this does have a cloak. However, even though it is a Romulan ship, it does only have a normal cloak, which is basically worthless in the current state of the game. So would like to see that updated to a battle cloak or a Romulan battle cloak, but as is, just being a standard cloak doesn't really have much impact on gameplay. Now, for the mastery package here, this has the standard destroyer mastery package, so accuracy, crit severity, crit chance, and then the plus 10% cat 1 for kinetic and energy damage. And the weapon setup here is 4-3. It does have an experimental weapon, but it is just the default one. This ship was introduced into the game a month and a half before the experimental weapon system was introduced into the game, so it just missed out on being able to have its own special, unique experimental. It has 3 device slots, console-wise 3 engineering, 4 science, 4 attack. And heading over to the bridge officer setup, you can see that this ship is a bit dated by modern standards. You've got a Lieutenant Commander Universal with Intel, a Lieutenant Universal with Pilot, a Commander TAC, an Ensign TAC, and a Lieutenant Commander Science. So this ship does not have a full Commander spec seat, and if you go in and compare this against some of the newer C-Store offerings, like the Hydra, you'll see that there's C-Store offerings that are quite a bit stronger nowadays. So looking at that comparison, The Hydra has a full commander intel plus a lieutenant commander pilot, whereas this is a lieutenant commander intel plus lieutenant pilot on the Tal Shiar destroyer. So you look at these side by side, you've got C-Store ships that have released in just the past year that are a much more appealing platform to fly than this Tal Shiar destroyer. And that Terran Hydra, that's got a 5-2 weapon setup, which I think most of you would prefer over a 4-3 setup. And the Hydra does also have a cloak, but again, the Tal Shiar destroyer does have that sensor analysis going for it. But, again, I don't, even if you get this bundle, I don't know how much you're really going to fly that Tal Shiar adapted destroyer over the other platforms out there like the Hydra. The Hydra is clearly a much better, a much stronger platform. I just don't see why you would use the Tal Shiar adapted destroyer over that. And heading over to the accessories, let's start with the Starship trait here. Synergistic Tactical Systems. When you activate Cannon Rapid Fire, Surgical Strikes, or Reroute Reserves weapons, you will get a plus 50 buff to Control Expertise and EPG skill for 15 seconds. So not really that powerful, and if you look at the Stow Better tier list and go to their exotic tab, this is pretty far down the list. They've given it a 1-star rating, so like it's there. If you're setting up a budget build and you happen to pick this bundle up, this I guess would be like an entry-level EPG trait, but there's clearly many different traits out there that are going to be much more impactful for an EPG build. So I mean, it's there, but I don't think it's anything that you would actually go out and use. Next up is the Warp Core. You see, the Tal Shiar adapted ships, when they were first introduced as Tier 5s back in 2013, they released alongside the introduction of Warp Cores and Singularity Cores into the game. And as such, alongside the consoles having a set between the Tal Shiar adapted destroyer and battlecruiser, they also included the Warp Core as part of that set. This Warp Core isn't anything special, but if you're looking to go in and run the set with the consoles, it may be something that you'd want to mess around with. So the 2-piece for the set here is going to regenerate 2.5% of your hull capacity every 60 seconds and give a plus 10% buff to shield healing. And then the 3-piece, your exotic damage, charge particle, and tachyon beam abilities will deal some shield penetrating radiation damage every second for 15 seconds. This does not apply to feedback pulse or eject warp plasma. So the 3-piece here could be interesting on a more science-heavy build where you can really take advantage of that. However, there's an issue. The Warp Core and the consoles off all the Tal Shiar adapted ships are bound to the Tal Shiar ships. So hopefully, with this being put in the 14th bundle, they'll go in and unbind these things so that people can mess around with them. But right now, the core and the console are both bound to just the Tal Shiar adapted destroyer and the Tal Shiar adapted battlecruiser. And the last accessory here is the enhanced shrapnel torpedo launcher. So this has a passive on it for plus 3% crit chance, and then the clicky here is going to launch a destructible projectile swarm. And this is similar to, in appearance, to what you would see in the Star Trek 2009 movie when that big Romulan ship would shoot torpedoes out of various targets. So let me fire that here. And again, I'm on like a build with nothing, so it's not going to do that much. So here it goes. I fired it. You can see it's like splitting apart. Again, it's a really neat effect, but I'm on normal difficulty, and on a harder difficulty, I don't know how well this is going to do damage-wise. So it's a fun little console, but it's got a 2-minute cooldown, and the damage on it, when you actually compare it against some of the other consoles out there, probably is not going to be that impressive. If the test map was working on Tribble, I would give you some comparison numbers there, but that's been broken for like half a year now. Okay, so I am going to do what little comparison I can do here with the Shrapnel Torpedo Launcher console against the Quantum Warhead module, the Bombing Run console off the Delkina, and Tri-Cobalt Tear Launcher off of the Steam Runner in the C-Store. So I'm going to do what I can here on the test map again. The test dummies aren't available. They haven't been for half a year. So I'm going to hit Intermediate Combat Encounter 1 and just throw all of these consoles at this assemblator here, and then I'll despawn the enemies.
Warning.
Okay, now that I don't see any more damage being done, I'm going to despawn the enemies. And let's look at that in the parser. So here we go. I'm going to go to outgoing damage. And the top line item here is the Steam Runner console. And the thing with the Steam Runner console is that it actually has two lines here. So the ultra high yield tricobalt explosion plus the unstable subspace rift, those are from the same console. The tricobalt terra launcher off the Steam Runner has a dot effect on it, so it's got two lines because of that. So that was the top performer. The quantum warhead module, that did well also. That got a crit, so it did a lot of damage compared to some of the other ones here. The bombing run console from the Delkina didn't do super amazing. And then shrapnel torpedo launcher down here did not really do that great. And that's sort of what I would expect. The shrapnel torpedo console, you know, it's based off of the T5 version that was released back in 2013. So with it having such a long cooldown and doing such little damage, even if you could slot this on other ships, it probably wouldn't be worth it. I would personally like to see the cooldown on this console reduced to like a minute, especially given it's based on the version from 2013. So take the cooldown down to a minute and buff the damage. Like, I think you could, honestly, you could probably go in 4 or 5x the damage and it would still, in some situations, fall behind some of these other consoles. So that's just a thought on it. But you look at the damage done here. Again, the warhead module did 127k, and that was just with the 6 charges. You can fire that every, 20-ish seconds with a single charge. The unstable subspace rift plus the ultra high yield, you know, those did almost combined like 8 to 9 times the damage that the shrapnel torpedo did. So you go in, take the shrapnel torpedo console down to a minute cooldown, and you buff the damage up 4 to 5 times from where it is right now. Probably be a fun console to use, especially if it was unbound. So there's the console and how it stacks up against the other options. And to recap, the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer is not that impressive stat-wise, and the secondary components of it aren't really that impressive either, and even if they were, the console and the warp core on it are locked explicitly to those Tal Shiar ships. So pretty underwhelming. I think Cryptic saw all of the negative feedback the Parliament was getting, and they decided to put in a second premium ship to the bundle, and they managed to find one that was more underwhelming than the Parliament. At least the Parliament has a trait that might be useful for some people, and a console that actually does have some endgame applications, whereas the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer has nothing really going for it. So I do expect that later this week, probably on Wednesday, they're going to come in and do a surprise announcement that they've heard our feedback and have decided to put another ship in the bundle, and it will probably be the Parliament. That's my thoughts. You know, that's not guaranteed to happen, but as is, the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer does not make this a very appealing bundle to a lot of people. The ship really has nothing going for it for most people, so again, expect that there will be another ship added in later this week. And that's going to be it for today. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the bundle. Is the Tal Shiar Adapted Destroyer something that appeals to you and makes you want to pick up the entire bundle? Or are you now thinking of just picking up 1 or 2 of the ships on their own that look good to you? So please let me know down below. And as always, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.